Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. And as you also know, I like to bring on guests that you may not be familiar with. Today is no exception. I met this guest at the speaker consulting meeting in June of this year, and she was one of the speakers in the Spotlight on Speaking contest. And I was very impressed with her presentation there. And I said, you know what, I'm going to bring her on and introduce her to my audience. She is a consultant. She helps practices in a variety of different ways. And she has some other things she does, which we'll get into as well. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Raving Patients podcast, Tiffany Maly. So Tiffany, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It's awesome to be here.
So, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I know we had a hard time scheduling because of our busy schedules. I know you were recently at CDA, you said, California Dental Association. Mm-hmm. So congratulations on that. I know you had told me that you were pushed by Lois Banta into the Spotlight on Speaking contest, and it was a very, and I've heard this from multiple people who did that, but it was a very scary proposition to be in. But as you said, you ripped the Band-Aid off. You got up there and you did your thing, and you impressed the obviously the speakers that were there. But why don't you, for the listeners and viewers, tell them a little bit about your background, a little bit about what you do, and how you help practices. But give them your bio. Tell people about what you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am a coach. I'm a consultant. I like to tell people I'm a recovering awkward person because I am. That's why Spotlight on Speaking was so hard for me, right? I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I would stay inside all my life if I could. I work with eAssist Dental Solutions in a lot of different capacities as well. I'm part of the Dental Coaching Institute, their consulting division. And I also get to work with Dr. Charles Blair over at Practice Booster, which has now been purchased by eAssist, and it's now eAssist Publishing. But I got to work with him on editing, revising, and creating the new Administration with Confidence book for 2022. So that was really cool. From a coaching and consulting perspective, I feel like I have a little bit of a different approach than most people. While I can come in and do a complete analysis and take a look at numbers, finding the gaps and the holes of where things are at, and it really helping to implement practice management systems to help kind of meet goals. What I have found in the 12 years that I have been in dentistry is that regardless of the practice management systems or anything that you have in place, if you don't have the leadership or the team communication or really a positive culture that you need, none of those systems are going to be effective. So that's what I do.
So talk about, before we jump into the other part of the podcast, talk about what you did in the past. So you were an office manager. So give them the background of what you did precursor to being a coach or consultant.
Okay, so I started out in dentistry actually more than 12 years ago. I decided to take a semester off of college to find myself. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was at Kansas State University and I moved to Colorado in with my dad. And he said, if you're going to live here, you've got to get a job, which I figured was fair. So he actually got me a job with a friend of his through a dental office. And it was a huge position. I was converting their 2-tab paper filing system to a 3-tab filing system. And then I realized that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I went back to school. I got a degree in economics and social science, started working in corporate finance. The economy crashed. I moved back to Colorado. I was trying to find work there. Nobody in my industry was hiring. And that same person that I had worked for all of those years before reached out to me and asked if I would come and fill in for her or for somebody in their office that was going on maternity leave. And then it just kind of it sucked me it sucked me in, and I stayed. I fell in love with it. So I've done answering phones and scheduling appointments, filing insurance claims, posting insurance payments, following up on outstanding insurance claims, managing overhead, managing a team of people, ensuring that all of the bills are paid. I plunged toilets. I have planned parties. I have been the janitor. I think I've done pretty much everything in a dental office except for be the dentist or the hygienist. I even have assisted and not because I wanted I wanted to exactly. My entire team went out to lunch together, and like 30 minutes after the time that they got back, they were all taking turns in the bathroom because they had all gotten food poisoning. So it was just me and the doctor, and he was thinking that we were going to have to cancel all the patients for the day. And I put on a lab coat and I said, well, you're just going to have some patience with me, but if you can walk me through it, we might actually make it through this day.
So it's funny you said that because I'm being the dentist. I've cleaned teeth, but I've done everything else. I've assisted. I've checked people out. I answer the phones. I've been the janitor. So I've actually probably done every role in the office because it's my business and that's how I feel. So I understand what you're saying. So that's actually good that you did that. I understand that role sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm sure your team is like super grateful for that.
Well, look, I have a different perspective on things. Yes, they are grateful that I help out like that. I'm not God. I don't expect them to do everything. I wanted to learn how to run the business if they're not there. So if my front desk wasn't there, I wanted to know how to run Dentrix. I wanted to know how to answer the phones. So I've done all those things and I still do it to this day. When this episode is running, I will have transitioned from business owner. I'm selling my office. My office will have been sold by then, and will be the associate at that point. So I will have a different role in the office where I'm just doing the dentistry. I won't have all the same responsibilities as I've had over the last 15 years, which will be a little different role for me because I'm so used to doing everything in the office. Now I'm just going to be doing the dentistry and not focused on everything else. So let's jump into the main things we wanted to talk about here. And
Sure.
I know you're very big you talk about emotion. And emotion is energy in motion. I think you refer to it as. So, let's start talking about that and bring up the points that you wanted to get through to the listeners and viewers.
Okay, so I will say that when I walk into a room full of dentists and I say that we're going to talk about feelings, I don't always get like a big round of applause. It's not always something that everybody is super excited to talk about. But one of the things that I like to highlight is just that. So emotion is energy in motion. Everything that we think or that we do is a cause set in motion, right? And then over time, those start to stack and build on each other and like pointing us almost as like a compass in one direction or another. Eventually, it's going to lead us to a destination. And either we're going to be happy at the destination that we got to, or we're not going to be so happy about the destination that we got to. And so there are ways that we can pivot that if we find ourselves maybe heading down a path that we're not wanting to be on. And a lot of that starts with channeling your emotions. Like the quality of our emotions is really determines the quality of the decisions that we make. And I'm sure, as you know, as a leader, whether you're the doctor or you're working at the front or you're an assistant or hygienist, it doesn't matter what your role is in the practice. It's our individual responsibility to really pull out the inner leader in all of us, right? And leaders know how to make decisions.
They do. And I think one of the things is not all dentists who run practices are good leaders, though. And I think that's a big problem as well. So I think one of the things that you made, and I think you mentioned this, that you don't want to work with somebody if you can't help them. I think when we were talking before the recording. So I think one of the things that you may do is you may need to determine whether a dentist can be a good leader, because if they're not a good leader, they may not be able to get their team to respond to the things they want them to do.
Right. And just because somebody may not be a perfect leader, in every sense of the word, it doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to be that. So, for example, a lot of times people are charged with emotion, right? They're charged with energy. Some people can be so angry about something that's going on that it doesn't matter what I say or do or what questions I ask. They are not in the right frame of mind to be willing to take any of the tools that are given to them and really utilize them to their full potential. Um, and it doesn't mean that I can't ever help them. Sometimes it means, okay, maybe instead of coming in from a consulting perspective, we start with a one-on-one coaching relationship, just the two of us, so that I can help you get to where you need to be the leader that you need to be for your team and for your practice. Then we can start talking about systems and all of the other things that fall into place.
So how does stress play a role in this whole process? Because stress is a big deal. You know, running a dental office, and I'm actually giving a seminar in October on at the Stress-Free Dental Conference. And I'm giving the keynote
so
address,
cool.
and stress is a big deal for a lot of people. You know, being the dentist or being just a dentist is much easier than being the dentist and running the business. Running the business is a much more difficult process, and people who are associates versus owners don't necessarily, always understand the differences between doing that. So talk to me about how stress handles, or how stress plays a role in all of this.
So when we are stressed about something or we're facing some kind of a conflict, that triggers one of two emotions within us, okay? It's either going to trigger anger or it's going to trigger sadness or depression. We have different choices and decisions that we can make along the way that can help kind of get us out of that loop. Otherwise, typically I call it the loop of insanity, or in coaching, we call it the crazy eight, where you may start out super angry about something and then maybe you react to something and you're not necessarily so happy with yourself because maybe you said something to somebody that you shouldn't have. And then you start to get depressed, like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? And then you kind of hold in this depression type of a state. And then you get mad at yourself because you're like, why am I upset about this? Like, I had every reason to be upset about that. And then you kind of come back around, right? And you go back and forth between being angry and being sad, and being angry and being sad. And so when we're stressed, one of those emotions is triggered by default. Every person is innately different. So how you might respond to stress is going to be different maybe than somebody else. But usually it's one of those. You're either going to be reactionary and out of anger, or you're going to fall into more of like a depressive type of a state where you're typically not making any decisions at all.
So what do you recommend someone do then? So if because there's other options then. So what do you recommend they do? There's things that you recommend they do in to interrupt that, I guess you could say.
Right. So it's really important that we get to make the decision about the choices that we're going to make and how to move forward. Essentially, there are two ways that we can get off of that loop of insanity. And that's going to be making an unhealthy choice or making a healthy choice. So some examples of an unhealthy choice would be, maybe it's your team. Maybe the team is upset about something. And a healthy choice would be proactively addressing the issue at hand, problem solving together, letting go of that emotion that is kind of fueling that, so that we can all come together and come up with different options for solutions. An unhealthy way of dealing with that, which also can still get us off of that loop, would be gossiping with everybody else that's on the team, right? Or creating some kind of drama around things. So it gets us off of that loop and in the moment, because we're able to connect with ourselves. If that makes any sense. Am I explaining that correctly?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Go ahead. Keep on going. You're good.
So we're really just looking to connect with ourselves in some way and to feel like we matter and that we're important. So like I said, we can do that by being controlling, Maybe maybe you're a dentist that likes to throw instruments when things aren't going their way. I've heard of a few of those. I haven't worked with them, um, and so that's not a healthy way, right? But it still gets you out of that loop because it helps you feel like you have now taken control of the situation. You feel important. You feel like you're significant. Um, a healthier way of handling that situation might be to take some deep breaths, get through whatever situation that you're in so that you can take some, like a breather, take 5 minutes to step out, calm down, cool down, and then, meet together with your team later to figure out, okay, what went wrong? What do we need to do differently next time?
Well, I will tell you, I've never thrown an instrument before. I'm definitely not like that. So I can definitely get stressed out. I learned to handle stress a little differently than your typical person. I let things now roll off my back. It is, don't sweat the small stuff is what I like to say. I've learned a lot of lessons over my career as a general dentist and as a business owner that 98% of things that happen are not life altering. And I just got to let it roll it off and deal with it. And, patients cancel, it sets the schedule back. The next day you'll make it back again and you'll make the money back. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes
Right.
there's problems in the office. You just got to deal with it. And that's kind of the way I kind of roll with it at this point in my life. I was very different back in the beginning of my career, and I used to let things bother me and ruin the day basically. And I've learned to not let that happen anymore. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. I don't think people understand how, again, feelings, our emotions really impact things. I think it's important, probably step one is to take a minute to really identify whatever that emotion is that you're feeling. And if you're not sure, you just need to keep asking yourself, like, why, 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 until you really pinpoint it and narrow it down. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be one of these two things.
Gotcha. So let's talk about what is the best way that an office or let's say a dentist should change the way they believe or change their philosophy when it comes to these things.
Sure. Okay. So in coaching, which I got my coaching certification through the Robbins Monanis Coaching Institute. So I'm not going to try to take credit for this. This is not something that I just came up with because I'm super brilliant. This is something that we learned in school, and it really does work. So there are 3 different ways to change any emotion that you're feeling, right? The first would be with your physiology, changing what you do with your body. So however you're feeling right now. So tell me how you're feeling right now.
How do I feel right now? Happy.
Yeah, happy. Are you really, really happy?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm talking to you. Why wouldn't I be happy?
Okay, because your shoulders slouch forward a little bit. So typically, when you're really, really, really happy or you're super excited about something, right? Or what if your wife were to run in the room right now and she's like, "Oh my God, we won the lottery!" Like, what would you be doing then?
I'd be jumping up for joy.
Right. You would be back. You would be standing up, and you would be looking like crazy, right? Like you're so excited. So everything that you're feeling, all your emotions, you are showing in your body language. So there is a nerve, it's called the vagus nerve, that runs from the back of your brain all the way down through your body. And it's really, really cool. If you are feeling a certain way in your mind, it communicates to the body what to do. But what's also cool is that it works in the opposite way as well. So if you want to change maybe where you're at in your mind or where your emotions are at, you just change what you're doing with your body. You remember things that you do with your body whenever you're happy or you're excited or whatever emotion it is that you want to feel, and you move your body into those different types of a position. So it's really actually the fastest way to trigger that change in your emotion. It's going to work faster than these other 2 ways. It's just something that happens really quickly because it's a response. It's a physical response. So the other thing that you can do would be to change what you're focusing on. So Tony always says, where focus goes, energy flows, which is very, very true. So you really have to ask yourself, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on everything that's not happening or everything's not going exactly the way you wanted. Somebody isn't performing their job maybe up to the standard that you've set for them. Or maybe you're unhappy with yourself, or what are you focusing on? Or are you focused on the outcome, right? What's the ultimate outcome in a perfect world that you would be looking for? When you can focus on those more positive things, it starts to help change that emotional response, right? It's really hard to be angry or sad when you are grateful for something. Like focusing on gratitude is another really easy way to help kind of change that mental perspective and start to trigger that change in emotional response. Practicing gratitude. It's always really important. We call it effective blaming in coaching. So sometimes when things aren't going the way that we want, it's really easy to blame someone else, blame a situation, blame COVID, blame health, literally anything, instead of like taking accountability and owning that. And if you're going to blame someone for something, for the bad, then you have to blame them for the good as well. So it's not like somebody wakes up and comes into work one day and they decide, you know what, I can't wait to like do the least amount of work possible. So that doctor is really upset with me all day long. That's not something that people think about, right? They want to come in and they want to do their best. So it's trying to remember, okay, what does this person normally do? What are the good qualities and things that they bring to the table when they come into work every day?
That makes a lot of sense. But you also said you can change. You mentioned to me in what you wrote here, you can change your focus and beliefs, but you can also change the language as well. Correct? Right.
So the things that we say out loud, and even if we don't say them out loud, but the things that we say to ourselves will become our reality. Like if we say something to us over and over again, or to ourselves or to somebody else over and over again, like it's going to happen. It's going to come true. Whatever you believe in shapes the choices and the decisions that you make. And those beliefs are actually formed from thoughts. So we say we have a thought about something, right? When that thought is charged with all of that emotion, it's what creates a belief system. And then we are looking for different ways to kind of confirm that that belief is real and true. And then we become super convicted in it. We can help interrupt that pattern when we change the words that we're saying to ourselves, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
Without trying to go like super into psychology about things, but.
Well, you gave a quote here. Your quote you left me was, if you, like Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, I mean, I think if you think positive thoughts, you're more likely to be able to positively impact something you're doing versus negative thoughts will negatively impact what you do, in my opinion.
Yes, 100%. 100%. A lot of times what I do when I go into offices, or especially if I'm on like a one-on-one coaching call with somebody, is because a lot of times people come to me for coaching when they feel stuck. They don't know why they're not making progress. They can't figure it out, or they're not happy with something. And it's like, okay, say you had all of the tools and resources that you could possibly imagine to do and be whatever it is that you wanted to do or be. Like, what would that look like? What's the perfect version of that look like? So if I were to ask you that, what would you say?
What would the ideal version of me look like, you said?
Right. Like if you could have the perfect life, like what would that look like? If you didn't have to worry about anything, you didn't have to worry about money, you didn't have to worry about having the right people on board. You could literally do whatever you wanted.
Well, I mean, look, I have to be honest with you. I think I have the perfect life right now. So, I mean, I live in Florida. I live in paradise. I walk outside. I have this beautiful pool. I fly up to my office. I work a couple of days there a week. I fly back. I have a cushy job where I make calls all day long. I'm on the phone. I do podcasting. I mean, I have things as perfect as I always wanted to. I mean, I set goals when I was a youngster. and I've achieved most of my life goals at 48 years old. So I don't have many things that I didn't achieve already. So I may be the wrong person to ask here, and I'm being honest with you.
No, I love that. I think
You,
that that's amazing, though. I think that that's also a testament to you as a person, right? And as an individual. That's why you're so influential. That's why people look up to you. That's why you're the leader that you are. So when I'm doing a coaching call with somebody, I'm hoping to get them to a point like where you are and where you feel right now. And a lot of times people think that they have an idea about what it is that they want. And so they'll give me an answer or a response to that. And then I'm going to ask them again, okay, now let's say you had all of that. Like, what would be even better than that? And then they don't even realize that they come up with a whole nother answer. And I go through that several times until they get to a point where it's like, oh, wow, okay. Maybe things aren't as bad as I thought they were. Like, I can actually do and have, all of these things. Like, now they have something to fight for. They know where they want to go. A lot of times that's hard. People know that they aren't happy where they're at. They know they want things to be different, but they don't really have a clear vision or a picture of where they ultimately want to be. What is your ultimate outcome? So when we can figure out what that ultimate outcome is, then we can talk about, okay, now let's problem solve. Let's work together and brainstorm on ways that we can help you get to that point. But I can't help you get to something that you haven't even identified or said out loud or written down. Ultimately where you're going to be.
well, that's why I think goal setting is really important. I mean, I think someone has to know, what goals they have, or else how do you set a way to get to the goal? How do you have an itinerary if you don't have the goal set? I think that's a very important part of doing anything in life is you need a goal. And if you don't set goals, I don't know how you do anything. I mean, honestly, I set goals at a very young age. And like I said, I'm very fortunate that I've achieved a lot of those things. And, and you work hard when you set a goal. I mean,
yeah.
If you want to achieve those goals, you work hard to do that.
Right.
Some people are very content with certain things just happening. I set goals and I've achieved them because I work hard to get those goals done. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I think that's a very important part of being a leader is that you set goals, you make changes in your daily lives to be able to achieve the goals that are necessary. I've worked with coaches. I've had a couple coaches throughout my life, in my personal life and my business life, because I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to be a better business person. I thought I was a really good listener, and I hired a coach, and the coach said I was a lousy listener. I did not listen well at all, and she said just by looking at you, she can tell. She told me that I was not a good listener, and I guess I wasn't. And I actually took listening classes. I learned how to listen better.
That's great.
And now I'm a great listener. I still always say that I don't listen. I don't listen to my wife as well. I selective hearing to her.
Right.
But in the business sense, I'm an amazing listener, and that's why I'm so successful in business because I listen intently to what a person from a business perspective is telling me.
Now, when you were setting goals, you said you've always set goals, right? Have you always held yourself accountable for those goals?
I have. I mean, if I set a goal and I don't achieve it, I have to. I don't want to say I pay the price, but obviously my business suffers if I haven't set the proper goal, and I have to go back and analyze why I didn't hit the goal. I mean, right. my team is held accountable as well. I've always been very much a person that is always looking at how to do better what we failed at. And if it's monetary, look, if somebody wants to lose weight, you don't say, I want to lose 150 pounds. You say you want to lose 20 pounds first. Lose the 20 pounds first, and then set the next goal to lose a little bit more weight. But if you're going to say, I'm going to lose 150 pounds, that's not a legitimate goal. You're never going to do it. And if you set a goal that's not achievable, you're just going to get frustrated and never be able to get to the goal.
Exactly. Sometimes I work with offices that have no problem setting the goals. The problem comes in following through on different things. And a lot of that is because of that lack of accountability. That's also why I'm a huge fan of touching base on like a weekly basis. You need to be connecting with your team and figuring out, okay, what is it that needs to be done? Who's going to be responsible for it? When does it need to be done by? How will I know that it's actually done and completed to the standard that we've set for ourselves? Because when somebody knows that you're going to be asking them about that every week, they're much more likely to maybe put a little bit of energy or effort into getting it done versus, oh, I feel so great. We made all these goals. And then it kind of gets, put in the drawer or put on the back burner. We've got to learn how to definitely take more of a proactive approach versus a reactive approach. So like if I were to go into an office and I find that they feel like they're constantly putting out fires, I know that that's a conversation probably that we need to have.
I have a question. It was not something we wanted to talk about, but I'm curious.
Sure.
How do you feel about incentivizing a team to get them to take action?
I think it's great. I love it. People will work harder for something, right? When they know that there's something or a reward that's out there. I love it.
I was just curious because I'm very big into it in monetarily incentivizing a team because I think, as they say, money talk and bullshit walks. And if you incentivize them with money, I think they work harder because they're going to earn a little bit more money from it.
Yeah, I know people have different ideas on what they feel like a bonus system should look like. To each their own.
Before you go there, I wanted to bring up a bonus system, and I always remember I ask a lot of times when I talk about bonuses, and I talk to teams about this specifically, and I ask team members why they think they should get a bonus. Okay. And I wait for an answer, and people raise their hand and say because I work hard, and I'm like, that's not the right answer. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're paid a salary or you're paid an hourly wage to work hard, and I say what is the reason why you're paid a bonus, and I wait again for an answer. And a lot of times people look at each other and they don't know what the answer is. What's the right answer to that question? Do you know?
I'm bringing in the money.
But there's a reason why a team gets bonus. What's the ultimate reason for that?
I feel like this is a trick question. And I don't know.
Well, it's not a trick question. It's an important reason. Why does a business owner pay a bonus to their team? There's one really important reason.
I want you to tell me what it is.
The answer is because the practice is profitable. If the
right,
practice is
right,
if the
you're
practice
bringing
is
in
not
the money, right?
Well, the practice is making money. If the practice isn't profitable, they can't pay a bonus to the team. The team doesn't make money unless the practice makes money.
Right.
And the team doesn't make money because they work hard. The team makes money because the practice is profitable, and that's what the team has to understand. Yeah. And a lot of times the team gets and a bonus is an extra amount of money they're going to earn. It should not be an expectation. And sometimes teams get an expectation or get to it that they get expected to earn the money, and that's when it becomes a problem.
I agree with that. Or the only people that are getting bonuses are the doctors and the hygienists, right? Because they're the providers. That is not. I don't believe in that either.
No, you have to bonus the whole team. It has to be a team thing. It can't be an individual thing.
Exactly. And I feel like it should be a flat rate. Everybody should get the same percentage of that bonus. And it needs to be based on your net collections, not production, which I think sometimes a lot of people do as well.
Production doesn't mean anything. You can have $2 million in production, but you collect 50% of that because you take insurance. So it has to be based on collection, how much you're collecting, not how much you're producing. That should have nothing to do with your numbers.
Exactly. And you may see 1 million patients a day bringing in all of this production, right? But somebody else is filing those claims, making sure that they're sent out as clean claims, so they're done right the first time. They're attaching the narratives and all the other attachments like radiographs, perio charting, whatever. They are posting those payments. Once insurance comes through and pays those, they're following up on any outstanding claims that haven't been paid or filing appeals for your behalf. They're the ones calling these patients, asking them how they want to take care of their balance today. There's a lot of other work that happens on the back end that I think sometimes people forget about.
So I wanted to ask you one final question before we get into the fun Would You Rather section of the podcast.
Sure.
I know you wanted to talk about making a decision to hire a coach. So how does a practice determine when the time comes and the difference between individual coaching and practice consulting?
So the first step that you could take, especially if you want to work with me, would be to call me Anybody that's listening to this podcast right now is welcome to call me for a complimentary discovery call, where we can sit down and talk about what your goals are, what it is that you're struggling with right now, where you ultimately want to be. You know that I am an open book. I am honest, probably to a fault sometimes. I'm going to be very direct with you and let you know if I feel like I'm not the best person to help you. I know a lot of amazing people. I'm sure if this isn't a good fit for you and I know somebody that would be happy to work with you, that you would work really, really well with. But on that discovery call, we identify what the challenges are. I said this before, you can have amazing practice management systems. You can have the fanciest equipment. You can have the nicest office. You can have all of these things. But if you don't have the leadership that's in place, or the positive team culture, or communication, none of those things are going to help. I mean, you might see a little bit of a return on your investment, but nothing what you're looking for. So a lot of times we're going to start with that one-on-one coaching, so I can help get the leader up to speed where he needs to be. Or maybe the owner doctor is an excellent leader, but for whatever reason, there's a disconnect either with the practice administrator or the office manager, and they're struggling maybe with how to manage a team. Maybe it's somebody who was, promoted. That was an assistant for many, many years, and now they're the office manager, and they're trying to figure out that balance now between the relationship since they're the boss. That can be hard to navigate. So a lot of times I will work one-on-one. I do weekly coaching sessions with either doctors and or their office managers until we get kind of a solid foundation built. And then we can talk about practice management, consulting, and numbers, and all of those things, right? I have to know too that if I'm going to ask you to do something, that you're going to follow through on that, because I'm here to help you be the best version of yourself that you can be and to build the practice of your dreams.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right. So let's jump into a couple of would you rather questions. Okay. So as I promised, no, and for those who haven't heard this before, nothing inappropriate, even though Tiffany says she is an open book. Not going to ask her anything inappropriate, so she doesn't have to worry about that. So really easy. I'll ask you a would you rather question, just what you choose and why. Doesn't have to be long-winded. So first one, would you rather eat vanilla or chocolate flavored everything?
Vanilla.
Okay. Would you rather shake hands with Rosa Parks or Susan B. Anthony?
Both at the same time.
Okay. Interesting question, because we're talking about dental stuff. Would you rather suffer from a toothache or earache all day?
Oh man, that's hard. Those both suck, and give you a headache. So, and I'm kind of a baby when it comes to headaches. I don't know. What would you say?
Well, I'll tell you, I just had a problem with my heel. I had like a throbbing pain in my heel, and I literally could not get it to stop. And I've never had a toothache before. And I know patients come in and they can't sit still. I could not sit still with this heel ache I had. And I literally wanted to cut my foot off. So I can't imagine having a toothache. I never had one, and I can't imagine what it feels like. So I definitely would prefer an earache, I think, but not a toothache.
Yeah, but probably actually, if it's an earache and it's just like an ear infection, that goes away a lot quicker, like with an antibiotic. Granted, I don't know anything about ears. Yeah, not trying to be a professional in ears. Yeah, but a lot of times, if you've got bigger issues, there's more underlying complications, dentally speaking. Yeah. So.
Okay, would you rather live like the Jetsons or Flintstones?
Ooh, the Jetsons.
Okay. Would you rather have an annoying ringtone or an embarrassing screensaver?
Embarrassing screensaver.
Don't like that question. Would you rather have breakfast for dinner, which is good, breakfast for dinner, or pizza for breakfast every day for a year?
Breakfast for dinner.
Okay. Let's see.
I'd also like to have dessert for breakfast.
Okay. Here was an interesting one. Would you rather have the discipline of a ballerina or the focus of a skilled surgeon?
Ooh. I feel like the discipline of a ballerina, because they also have a focus that I think people underestimate. I don't know.
Good
I feel
answer.
like they both actually, but yeah.
Good answer.
And they know the physical toll. They go through a lot. Have you seen those shows on Netflix? That's crazy.
I've seen some of that stuff. So, would you rather be forced to wear all polka dots or all paisleys every day?
Polka dots.
Okay.
Polka dot,
and
polka
this
dot, polka dot. Have you seen that?
and this is the last one. And this one I ask everybody: would you rather not be able to use search engines again, or use your phone apps again?
Ooh.
So no search engine or no phone apps.
No. No phone apps.
So Google's important to you then?
I geek out on things and I have a lot of questions. I mean, I'm constantly learning
Googling.
something. Yeah, every single day. I also, so it's a trick question, I feel like, too, because I love books. Like I'm an avid reader. I'm a writer. But I like to hold the book physically in my hand. So if I had like unlimited access to like a library, maybe I could do it. But Google's just way more efficient.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for taking part in that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tiffany, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. You can always go to my Facebook page, which is Elevation Dental Consulting. Email me at Tiffany at elevationdentalconsulting.com, or you can give me a phone call, 785-410-7002. And if for some reason I can't answer the phone, please leave me a message. Please leave me a message. I promise I will call you back. And don't forget to mention that you heard about me from this podcast so that I can make sure that you get that complimentary discovery call.
Awesome, Tiffany. This was great. Thank you so much for sharing your 40-something minutes of time with me today. I'm glad we finally got to do this, and I wanted to introduce you to my audience. You have a very glowing personality, like I told you.
Thank you.
You got a great smile. I love how you light up the room, so I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh! You ripped off the Band-Aid now for podcasts.
Hey, I appreciate you did a great job. So, guys, if you want to reach out to Tiffany, please do. You have her contact information. Just let her know you heard about us on the podcast. Heard about her on the podcast. And if you like the episode, please share it. Subscribe to our episodes, like it, review us. They come out Fridays at 1 p.m. Again, lots of episodes to catch up on if you haven't listened to us before. And we didn't talk about reviews, but remember, your reputation matters. Tiffany, once again, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And we'll speak to everyone soon. Tiffany, have a great day. Everybody, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.